We have been hearing all about how Trump and his administration supposedly have this huge mandate ever since he won the 2024 election. But the numbers are starting to roll in, and oh boy, they are not looking good for not only Donald Trump, but for the actual things his administration is doing as well. Donald Trump himself is a historically unpopular president. He is the most divisive presidential figure that this country has ever seen. But when you break things down and you ask Americans if they like what Doge and other parts of the administration are doing, they are not happy. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of this polling. And I just want to remind everybody real quick, Donald Trump has only been in office for about a month now. Most other presidents at this time are still experiencing relatively high polling. They are in their honeymoon phase. But for Donald Trump, before he could even get started, in his very first week in office, he was already underwater. So let's go ahead and take a look at this clip really quick, and then we will discuss. And if you do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
But in that first Gallup poll of this presidential term, sort of shockingly, Trump was already underwater. In his first week in office, more Americans disapproved of him than approved of him. I mean, only by 1 point, but still, that's unheard of. That's a more than unusual thing in presidential polling.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Most presidents come into office, the American people are excited. They have a change of administration. You have a duly elected president. They're excited that they're going to get into office and they're going to do the job. And you got a honeymoon period when it comes to polling. The American people are rallying behind the new president, and they want to see him do good for the country. But in his very first week in office, Donald Trump was already experiencing a -1 net approval rating. And now that we are a month in, man, his numbers are just tanking. Check this one out.
Gallup just did its follow-up poll, now 1 month into Trump being back in office, and his numbers have gotten worse. He's not -1 anymore. Now he's -6, which makes him, at this point in his term, not only the most disliked and unpopular president in 70-plus years of Gallup polling, Gallup says it actually puts him 15 points below the average polling for presidents. Again, over the last 72 years in which they have been doing this polling.
So just imagine what we're seeing here. Ever since Gallup has been doing this polling, Donald Trump is the most unpopular president that this country has ever seen. He is 15 points below the historical averages. I mean, that is just unheard of. We were trying to warn people that Donald Trump was not only a terrible person, but he was going to be a terrible president. And now these numbers are really starting to bear that out. And you might just say, oh, well, it's Gallup. It's only one poll. But brace yourself, folks, because Gallup is not the only one showing this sharp decline in Trump's approval rating.
In today's CNN poll, overall, Donald Trump is underwater by 5 points. In the new poll from Pew Research, Donald Trump is underwater by 4 points. In the new poll from Reuters, Donald Trump is underwater by 7 points. In the new poll from the Washington Post and Ipsos that's out today, they've got Trump underwater by 8 points. All of this absolutely historically unprecedented. No president has ever come out of the gate with numbers like this ever before. And it is across the board.
Across the board, Donald Trump's approval ratings are falling off a cliff. Maybe that has something to do with making a whole bunch of promises about how you're going to bring down egg prices, gas prices, housing prices, and then you get into office and you have done absolutely nothing to address those issues. Instead, you've been going around suing different news organizations. You've been making wild statements about how you are the only one who can say what the law is. You're just showing your ass. You are showing that you want to be a vengeful president. You are showing that this authoritarian takeover that many people were warning about is actually coming to fruition. And people just do not like it. And it's just so embarrassing that Donald Trump even got elected for a second term. But I am really hoping that this type of polling we can rally behind, we can grab this sentiment up, and we can use it to fight back against this Trump administration. And you might just say, oh, well, it's Donald Trump. He's just a man. People don't like his mean tweets. They don't like how brash he is, how crude. Well, then you'd be wrong there as well. Because when these pollsters break things out and they start asking about different concepts as far as how Trump is handling this administration, people are just not into it. And let's just check out this first list of items real quick.
Do you approve of Trump's handling of foreign policy? No. Do you approve of Trump's handling of trade? No. Do you approve of Trump's handling of the federal workforce? No. Do you approve of Trump's handling of the Russia-Ukraine conflict? No. Do you approve of Trump's handling of the Israel-Hamas conflict? No, 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 no. Do you approve of Trump's handling of the economy? No. No, the American public does not approve of his handling of the economy. And
This is a crazy one because Republicans enjoy a perception advantage when it comes to the economy. For whatever reason, Americans think that Republicans handle the economy better, even though all the data shows that Democrats actually do better when it comes to the economy. So it is absolutely insane that Donald Trump is underwater even on the economy. When you come in and you start implementing tariffs or starting trade wars with our greatest allies, maybe people aren't going to be that into that. When you come in and you don't address any of the issues that you campaigned on, maybe the American people aren't going to be down with that. So these were some more like high conceptual type ideas. People are really disapproving of Donald Trump. But even when we get into a list of more specific things, more specific issues, again, disapprove, disapprove, disapprove.
do you support Trump banning transgender people from the military? No, by 11 points. Do you support Trump laying off large numbers of federal workers? No, by 19 points. Do you support Trump shutting down USAID? No, by 21 points. Do you support Trump pardoning people convicted of violent crimes related to the attack on the Capitol on January 6, 2021? Do you support Trump's pardon of people convicted of violent crimes on J6? What do you think the number is going to be on that one? The answer obviously is no. The American people do not support that. But the proportion of Americans who say that is 83%.
83% oppose. Just think about how Trump and the MAGA movement have been trying to sell this narrative that it was the J6ers who have been so unfairly treated. They've been persecuted because they were Trump supporters. But then you poll the American people and they understand that what they saw on January 6th was an actual insurrection against the United States of America. What they saw that day was Trump supporters beating police officers to a pulp, more than 140 of them. And then you ask them, well, hey, do you agree with pardoning those violent J6ers? Of course, they were going to oppose that. 83% oppose. I'm just so sick of Trump and his MAGA minions, the MAGA movement. They try to make everybody else live in their constructed reality, this MAGA bubble. But then you step out into the real world and you realize that more Americans are a bit more reasonable. They're a bit more rational. They don't like when Trump supporters go to the Capitol and lead an insurrection and beat the shit out of cops. Then we move on to Trump issues that Trump has made a big deal, right? Trump-focused issues, the things that he wants you to care about. And even when you ask the American people about that, they're just not into it.
Do you like Donald Trump's genius idea for Gaza? By a 40-point margin, the American people are against Trump on that. How about DEI, which they've tried to turn into a slur? Do you think policies focused on increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace are a good thing? The American people say, yes, actually. Yes, actually, we do think that's a good thing. By a 15-point margin, Americans are for that. How about tariffs? Donald Trump's favorite thing, right? Do you think Donald Trump's tariffs will help the U.S. economy or hurt it? By an 11-point margin, the American people say his tariffs will hurt the American economy, not help.
I'm not going to lie. When I watched this segment from Rachel Maddow, it gave me a little bit of hope. You know, after the election, I was very disappointed in the American people that they would elect such a buffoon like Donald Trump. But then I saw this piece, and I'm not saying that I've done a complete 180. There is still a lot of disapproval from me, a lot of disappointment. But this polling shows that the American people are more rational. Do I just turn them all away because they elected such an idiot? Or do we need to remember that the people who are realizing that maybe they made a mistake when they voted for Donald Trump, the people who are answering these questions in a rational sort of way, we're probably going to need some of those people to try to defeat this Trump administration. And I think that's something we definitely have to keep in mind. It's something that I've said on a previous video. It's very easy to just hate all these people, not like them, don't give them the time of day. But we've got to remember, people make mistakes. Yes, this was a terrible, terrible, terrible mistake in my mind. But if people are willing to, come out and say, hey, I made a mistake and I want to, right that wrong, we should be more than willing to listen to those people. And this polling just gave me a little bit of hope that we could see a grassroots movement that bubbles up all over the country that is going to fight back against this authoritarian power grab that we are seeing from the Trump administration. Now, obviously, this polling didn't go over a whole lot of that authoritarian takeover type stuff, but a lot of these things are tangentially related to what the Trump administration is doing, and they are not happy. So we need to take this discontent, we need to harness it, we need to build a coalition that can fight back against this administration. That is the only way that we are going to win elections. So it's definitely something we should keep in mind as we move into not only the midterms, but to 2028. But all of that work has to start now. And we have to make sure we keep the pressure up and make sure that we are informing the American people about all of this crazy shit that this administration is doing. Because once they know, once the American people can actually see what Trump is doing and how it affects their lives, they're just not into it. So we have to harness that and build a coalition moving forward. And I just want to show you this one clip because Donald Trump came out after these polls were released, and guess how he responded? In true Donald Trump fashion, here he is.
I think so far we're very popular. I had an approval rating today of 71 and another one of 69. Now, I have not heard of those numbers before.
You haven't heard of these numbers before, jackass, because they don't exist. The American people do not like you. You are you are the most unpopular president that this country has ever seen ever since Gallup has been doing this type of polling, and the American people just aren't that into you. You've got a strong base of 30 to 35% of MAGA loyalists. They will follow you till the ends of the earth. But when you back up and you talk to average Americans who are just trying to live a good life for them and their families, they don't like you, bro. So let's take this polling, let's take this sentiment, let's take this discontent and start building a coalition that can sufficiently push back and fight back against this authoritarian administration. That is what I'm going to take from these polls. I hope you will take that from these polls, and we can start to harness this displeasure and use it in a positive way. So I will leave it there for now. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We've got to build something here on the left that can adequately push back against this right-wing media ecosystem that just shovels shit for Donald Trump every single day. So if you do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe. If you want to see how this toxic MAGA movement is marching itself straight into fascism and starting to silence dissent with violence, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.